everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest is a guy, he's one of my favorite guys in the industry, I'm not going to lie. He's an East Coast guy, good friend of Evan Centopani's is how I met him. He's become very well known as a coach, nutrition expert. You probably watch his videos on YouTube. He is Chris Tuttle. How are you, Chris?
Hey, how's it going, Ron? Long time, buddy.
I actually looked up to see when we did our last interview, and it was posted November 3rd, 2017. So
2017, yeah, that's going back.
It's been a minute. So what prompted me to get a hold of you for this is this show here, Legion Sports Fest, is coming up in a little less than 3 weeks. And I'm looking at the competitor list and names on the list. In the 212 division, I see Chris Tuttle. And I'm like, Chris Tuttle? And I see you competed as a pro. You turned pro at the 2013 Nationals.
Yeah.
You only competed as a pro twice, and that was 4 years ago. You did the New York Pro. You got top 5, which is a tough show, as we all know. And you did Phoenix Pro later in the season, and that was it. So why did you stop competing, and what's bringing you back?
All right. So when I was getting ready for New York Pro 15 weeks out, I hurt my knee very badly. So I typically have a hip shift, as many powerlifters understand what that means. So when you're squatting to failure, that's potentially dangerous, because your form becomes off. And if your hips are already off and you're trained to failure, you can kind of shift to one side more than the other repetitively. So I was doing squats 15 weeks out, and I was doing them second. And I said to my buddy, I'm like, dude, let's just push it. Let's go like 15 plus reps. And I didn't have that much weight on there. Like I'm not a big lifter strength wise. I was like 365. And I came down and I kind of shifted excessively to my left side. And I felt a pretty gnarly pain in my left knee. And I'm like, I think I may have hurt my knee. So I racked the weight and I walked around. And then within 20 minutes, I couldn't even bend my knee at all. And I'm like, oh, shit. So long story short, it was like severe case of chondromalacia. So which is basically the scraping deterioration of the cartilage underneath the patella, under the soft tissue. And it flared up really bad to the point I couldn't even sit in the toilet with my leg bent for like 3 weeks getting ready for that show. And New York Pro, I actually couldn't squat more than 135 the entire prep. I had to figure out how to ways to make different angles, make it so I could stimulate the muscle to keep it, because to keep a muscle doesn't take as much as it does to grow one, of course. Yeah. And then it got better. And then after Europa, I heard it all over again. And then again, and then again. And to the point where like 8 weeks went by and my knee was getting worse and worse. Saw tons of doctors, saw tons of alternate treatments with PRP, and weighed all my options, did MRIs, had some top specialists look at my knee. And basically the issue is I tore my hamstring in 2009, left side. The left hamstring doesn't fire quite right because there's a lot of scar tissue that's built up. Yeah. And combination of my hip shift and constantly always leaning left, when I train both legs together, I will always shift forward, driving my left femur forward into my patella, which keeps scraping and aggravating the chondromalacia. Yeah. And he said my meniscus was completely intact. He goes, it's like he gets full tread. He goes, but the cartilage under kneecap, he goes, is practically gone. So now the reason I haven't competed since then is because the constant knee issues and constantly getting injured. And I had to really change my approach and how I trained. And then, over time, got my legs up just a little bit more. But I love competing, Ron. I love the lifestyle. I love bodybuilding to death. If there was no Instagram, no fame, nothing, I would still be doing the same damn shit. I love it. And now that my knee's a little better, I was like, let's take a stab at it. And I had to make a lot of adjustments to make that happen, keeping body weight really light and low in the off season to keep the weight off my knee, doing all single leg movements, totally training in the philosophy of stimulating the muscle, not even worrying about leverage points or the weight. Just I use the weight where I feel the connection in my quad. And once I have that weight, I'll just do as many reps as I can until I reach close to muscular failure. And I've been able to stimulate the quad, get a pump in it, because for a while I didn't get a pump in my left leg for like 2 years.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, your legs look, they seem to me like they've been back more or less for a long time from pictures you posted.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at hiding it.
No, you can't hide straight on quad shots. And you can't hide
Well,
from me because I know all about hiding
yeah.
flaws. Trust me.
Well,
And
Ron, if I stood there, when I see you in California, I will show you how you can see it. So it's like the left vastus lateralis, for whatever reason, doesn't fire the same as the right side. Um, and like it's very apparent if I stand a certain way and you look at both quads a specific way and the vastus lateralis, where one side's very shallow and the other side comes out. But I mean, it's gotten significantly better since I totally changed the way I trained. I just stopped trying to focus on what I used to be able to do and just started to focus on what I can do,
hmm,
Because too many people will be like, well, I used to do this. I got to get back there. Well, let's worry about what you can do, pal, and just progress from there.
yeah, don't make fun of me, Chris. Come on. But
Yeah.
no, I made a comment because you posted a picture of your quad the other day on your Instagram, which is IFBB Pro Chris Tuttle, everybody, and your quad looked friggin', looked pretty damn great to me. And I forget what the comment was. It was about how you don't train the same way. And I said, maybe you're not squatting 800 pounds, but your quads are pretty damn good. You said you're doing 80-pound like Bulgarian split squats, which Meadows had just been out here. Meadows was just out my way a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how squats ended up being bad news for him over time. He can't squat heavy anymore, and that's a movement that he's been using a lot, and so is Evan. So it sounds ridiculous to people who are used to squatting, because back in the day I used to squat a shit ton of weight, and I can't do it anymore, and I'm crying about it to you right now. But you can still rebuild, especially if you had that leg mass before. Because me
Yep.
and John we were actually talking about this for a while. Once you've had the mass, you can get it back if you lose it, or you can maintain it with different methods. And you don't have to go crazy heavy, because
Right.
if you could be a moron and say, I'm going to squat 405. I'll just wrap it real tight and this and that. And, you'd end up, I don't want to say in a wheelchair, but it probably wouldn't be a good result.
Oh,
But
dude, absolutely. I said to my friend the other day, he's like, doesn't it bum you out? I'm like, well, it bummed me out more by the time I'm 45 and I've had full knee replacements.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
do you get shit from like, you don't post a lot of, do you post a lot of training stuff online?
Uh, Sometimes.
Yeah.
I just like the way I look at training and training videos. Like, if I'm going to train, if I'm going to post a video about training, and it's about like maybe specific angles or maybe tips on how to get more activation in your chest. Yeah, sure. But like, when people post videos of them deadlifting and squatting, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's ridiculous considering there's powerlifters rest pausing 700 pounds for 6 reps and you're posting a video of 4 or 5 for like 10. It's like whoopee doo. It's
Wow.
just, in my opinion, yeah, it's great for you and you're doing it. It just, in my opinion, it's just not impressive. I like to, if I'm going to put knowledge or information out there, I want it to be information and knowledge that somebody can learn from, or my mistake. It's not like, hey, look at me, I did 80-pound dumbbell presses for like time under tension for 5 minutes. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I
Well,
just think it's stupid to
well,
post.
you know what? I have I say this all the time, and I hate to say it during your interview again, but I'm not impressed by the weights people use because I'm a pure bodybuilder at heart. The
Yeah.
weight, as far as I'm concerned, if I could get huge lifting 2 pound weights, I'd be like, okay, well, I wouldn't cry about it. Whereas I see all these videos for these people that they consider themselves bodybuilders because they're posing and they must identify as bodybuilders for the most part, but they're posting, maybe these T-bar rows with 10 plates where they're just jerking it an inch. And I see or they're deadlifting all kinds of weight and they have no back thickness, none. Or
No.
they're squatting all this weight, 500, 600 pounds for like, they're all wrapped up and they got someone spying them and their legs are nothing special. So I don't know why they're so proud or I think it's maybe because most people are never going to be elite in either strength or physique. So if they can kind of kind of like mosh them both together in like one video, I don't know. Let's move on.
I honestly, I'll get shit for this. I think it's a little stupidity. I think it's a lot of insecurity and not being able to control someone's ego. Because let's be honest, if your goal is to be a bodybuilder and be a good one, doing reps 5 or below, you have no business doing that.
Mm,
Because let's be honest, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, Dennis Wolf, Evan, Ben White, have all Jose, everybody's been sidelined from an injury.
mm,
everybody's one injury away from being done from bodybuilding forever. So
Right.
to potentially put yourself at risk doing a movement that's not going to give you the gains you need and potentially risk ruining bodybuilding forever for an Instagram video is just idiotic.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're into that and that's what you want to do, good. But if you get hurt, don't be shocked. I mean, I've had 14 clients tear their pecs
Wow.
since I've been a coach, and 11 of them were all maxing out below 4 reps on bench
Mhm.
press.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember years ago when I was down there and you were training chest with Evan, you talked about that you figured out pretty early on that you're injury prone. So have you sort of adjusted your training over the years to keep yourself a little safer in general?
Yeah, because I have a totally different philosophy on it now, man. It's like you just said, like if you're training lightweight and you're getting results, that's great because in the end of the day, I'm not going to have arthritis all over my body
Mhm.
and I'll be able to continuously maybe lift forever because I love lifting. Imagine not being able to lift at all, period, ever
Mhm.
again. Like that would be devastating. So it's funny is after I tore my pec, Evan made a comment. He goes, "Dude, ever since
Wait, you tore your pec?
I partially tore my
Oh,
pec benching 2012,
okay.
and that's when I really changed everything about my training."
Mm.
And he goes, "Ever since you partially, ever since you hurt your pec," he goes, "your chest is blown up." I
Mm.
go, I go, that's because like I had to cut the weight back and I had to figure out ways to stimulate the muscle and not re-hurt the injury. So therefore I was getting much more recruitment out of the chest, you
Mm.
know? And really I got, I train like a bodybuilder, like you just said, Ron. And I think that's one thing that people don't understand. They think that I have to lift as much weight as I humanly can in all of these movements, no matter what the body English is or swaying to get that. And the problem comes with some people are genetic freaks and they can do that and grow. And young kids might see that and be like, well, that's what I need to do to grow. And
Yeah.
plus, it also gives that whole notoriety of look at me, I'm lifting heavy weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a school of hard knocks. I had a bodybuilder, professional bodybuilder. I don't remember what his name. It's going way back. He said to me, he goes, the difference between me and you, he goes, you don't know shit about training. And he goes, and you probably don't know your body, and you're probably in the gym weightlifting and not bodybuilding. I had no idea what he's talking about. And I'm
Wow.
like, and sure enough, like over the years, I now I get it because
Yeah.
I was a weightlifter for years.
Yeah.
And then now recently, it's a school of hard knocks. So all the mistakes I've made and injuries I've had, I'm like, this is all from weightlifting and ignoring signs and signals of being like, you better back off. I'm like, nah, tighter, put another plate on,
Yeah.
pop
I,
some Advil, keep going.
I blame Instagram for a lot of this, honestly, because I have a friend who's been training very long time. He's no spring chicken. He's like 45 years old. And I keep telling him, dude, your back is horrible, And I keep seeing these videos where he's T-bar rowing all this weight, and there's not one lat fiber firing. I swear to you. And I said, what are you doing? And he says, well, that's just the lat set that I do. That's for the gram. I'm like, okay, but I know it's not. I know he trains that way all the time. He's watching this. I'm sure you are. I'm not going to say his name, but getting back to you coming back, I had assumed, and this is probably part of the reason. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've been very, very busy as a coach. I've seen, pictures at like shows where you're there with your clients, and there's a gaggle of Chris Tuttle clients there. Have you been very, very busy to the point where competing for you really didn't make sense because you had so many clients going on?
Um, yes and no. I mean, partially was the injury, and it's tough to be like, yeah, you're going to go to war, but you're going to go to war with only a pistol and 5 rounds. You know what I mean? It's like you're not going fully armed. So like I didn't feel the desire to really push it and do it at that point.
Mm.
And then I wanted to build the business, and my true passion is really helping people. I love helping people,
Yeah.
and actually my true passion is helping people lose weight, manage their diabetes, help them get off their medications, and change and save their life. I do love prepping people for shows, but nothing's better than changing someone's life. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
And majority of my clientele is that. But
And back up, tell people your actual education here.
all right, so I'm a registered dietitian. I have my master's in nutrition. Worked at the hospital in clinical setting for about 5 years, and Now I've been in private practice for, oh man, it's been a while now, 6 years, 100% full time,
Hmm.
more than full time. And now my wife and I work probably 60, 70 hours a week. And we just stopped taking clients on a month ago. We can't work any more than this,
That's a
you
lot
know?
of work. That's a lot.
It is a lot of work, man. It is, you know, and unfortunately some people aren't easy to work with, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, do you find that because you do have a lot of, I guess you call them lifestyle clients when they're quote unquote regular people and not meatheads, right? Do you find that they're more adherent to the program than, say, some figure competitor, bikini competitor, bodybuilder who's constantly questioning, why do I have to eat this? Why can't I eat that? Or, you know,
Um, it's just, I would say it's just a different type of mentality and focus. People don't realize that majority of the time someone doesn't reach their goal, no matter what that might be, it's not the plan itself, it's them. It's their self-manipulating behaviors and overthinking that causes them to fail. Why does the obese client continuously binge? Because there's psychological issues. There's a poor relationship with food. So there's a lot of things that psychologically need to be addressed with the individual along with a sound plan that helps them get to where they need to be. So like just like with competitors, a good chunk of them today are competing, obviously, as you know, for the wrong reasons,
right.
or they're insecure, or they want to better their physique because they feel, you know, inferior, or they like that material look. You know, the aspects that feed the narcissism, so to speak. So it's a whole different type of, uh, you know, motivation to compete, but
Right.
they're both very similar in the aspect of psychological uh, manipulations and things I have to address. I address a lot of that with both sides.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, clients like that, I mean, I just tell them like, listen, if you're going to make yourself fail. If you're overthinking, questioning everything along the way, it's just not going to work. It's just
Yeah.
not, you know? I mean, it's funny is Ron, as you know, is I've worked with quite a few coaches. I've done well and won with every one of them. It's
Hmm.
like, it's not like, you know, sometimes you get somebody who goes to one coach and they don't do well. You go to the next coach, they don't do well. It's like, maybe because it's you. It's not the coach.
That's like the person who has a bunch of roommates or bosses say, ah, that boss was an asshole. Like, that's 10 bosses in a row. Maybe you're the asshole.
Yeah. People have trouble looking at themselves and what they could be doing or not doing that's manipulating the prep because the plan is only as good as your ability to follow it and your ability to stay calm, cool, not overthink, and trust the process, you know?
So, you have a different perspective because you do work with a lot of normal people that are not interested in competing. They just want to better themselves and get healthy and feel better. Is it more satisfactory, or is it a different type of satisfaction to help, say someone you help them lose 100 pounds and they can get off their diabetes meds and they're mobile and their quality of life is so much better versus someone who just wants to win the show and qualify for nationals or maybe even get them a pro card because that would be obviously a big achievement for a coach too. So the two different types of success with clients, are they different for you or is one more rewarding?
It's definitely much more rewarding to change somebody's life and save their life. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a lot of competitors that I've helped over the years, my long term ones, that I've not only just helped be better competitors, they also tell me they thank me for my ability to help them think differently, that's helped them in their job, their relationship, have more balance. Because at the end of the day, coaching, you can define it as whatever you want that to be, but like, you know, if to be a good bodybuilder and to be successful in the long term, you also have to have a good head on your shoulders. You can't be a head case.
Yeah.
So it's like, usually people who are successful, I'm sure you've heard this, people who are successful billionaires also have a clean house, are also exercising, are
True.
also have other stuff together. It's not like they're billionaires and successful, and then you go to the house and it's like a pigsty. They don't eat right. Everything's the shit.
Right.
Everything in their life is good or satisfactory. So I tell a lot of my competitors, like, man, you got to balance out your job, your relationship, and your whole life before you can just give everything to bodybuilding, because you give everything to bodybuilding and everything else life's in shambles. Bodybuilding's eventually going to go, and at
Mm.
the end, you're going to have nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta have that background. Just like when Jay Cutler, like he established himself financially with real estate and things like that along the way. It's like that's what you got to do. You got to feed the stability around your environment to compete. You can't like paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck, spend all your money on supplements and gear and food and coaching, and be like, one more show, I'm gonna make it. No, you're not.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean it's a backup plan, or having businesses to fall back on or make money is so important to stress to all these people that are, because now with Instagram, a lot of people have this idea that they're going to get rich and famous from bodybuilding or from bikini or whatever, and obviously most of them aren't. And like we referenced before, I always say even the best pros they're one pec tear or herniated disc away from their pro career being over as far as competing. So
Yeah. And
don't put all your eggs in.
it's not like pros are making $3 million a year.
No,
It's
no.
like once it's done, it's over, and then they're working at freaking Caldors or Sears or being a personal trainer or something, like, which is fine if you're happy doing that, but like you gotta look at the long term and consider that along the way. You have
Yeah.
to.
Let's talk about coaching for a minute, because I interviewed Evan a few months ago, and he said the only person he would trust he doesn't really like the word coaching anymore, but the only person he would trust to help guide him to theoretically is going to be the 2020 New York Pro. I hope he does that show. Would be you, Chris Tuttle. Um, you know, even someone as wise and he's on your level as far as nutritional expertise, supplements, and all that. But even he would want someone to help look at him and guide him. And you have a coach right now, Andrew Vu out of Texas, and I had to ask you to remind me who he trains, who he coaches. Arash Rabar, John Jewett, Hunter Labrada, even yourself, who is an excellent coach by many accounts, and clearly your nutritional knowledge is on par with anyone at the very top of the industry. What does someone like yourself gain from a coach? What do they do for you that you couldn't do for yourself, especially in the final stages of a prep?
It definitely takes a lot of stress away, and unfortunately in today's day and age, it's hard to find a good, reliable coach that has you in your best interest,
Hmm.
and a coach that is not black and white. And you get a lot of these coaches, you're like, oh, you have to run this and this for gear. It's mandatory. I'm out. You're a jackass. Or it has to be done with low fat, high carb. It has to be. I'm like, you're another jackass. So there's a lot of people that are just all one way. Like aceto is like, there's many different ways that work. I'm like, that makes sense to me. That's educated. That's intelligence.
Hmm.
And Vu's the same way. Like, I knew about Vu for a while, and I knew we saw eye to eye. And he's not very flashy. When people are really flashy and they're all over Instagram commenting, and then you hear clients complain, they're like, "I haven't even responded to him in 3 days." I'm like, "Yeah, but he's on Instagram every day."
Yeah.
So like, and not to mention what some people charge is outrageous. So I
Hmm.
said to myself, I'm like, you know what? I'd love to have somebody in my corner, help me out. And I said to him, like, listen, man, like I'm a little weird when it comes to bodybuilding. Like I'm not cutting out my fruit juice. I'm not cutting out my fruit. I'm not cutting out these foods.
What?
Like here's my diet. Let's make this work. And he just took the diet, made two tweaks and sent it right back. I'm like, this is perfect.
Hmm.
And then all along the way, every decision he's made, I've been 100% like, that's exactly kind of like what I was thinking, or I'm totally okay with that. And he's responsive, and I like that. And I like somebody I feel like I could trust. Where in the past, where I feel like sometimes it's either waiting 2 or 3 days to respond, or you feel like there's favoritism, or
Hmm.
there's just not the exact attention you want. And not to mention, it does relieve a lot of stress. Like I'm working 12-hour days Monday through Saturday and 3 hours on Sunday. It's like having to worry about myself and look at things a little more clearer. I don't want that.
Hmm.
Like the day of my show, the weekend of my show competing, I compete on Sunday, the Legions on Sunday.
Yeah.
I had 14 people competing on Saturday across the country. It's
Wow.
like, I don't want to have to worry about something like my carb up and stuff like that. It's like, here are the pictures, tell me what to do, and that aspect. But just like Evan said, though, Evan's like, it's like if Evan and I end up working together, it's not like a typical probably coaching relationship where I'm like, follow this, do that. It's more like, all right, what are we doing? All right, I think you're progressing fine. It's more like bouncing ideas off each other, because I've seen him progress over the years. And I remember one year I see him a week out from Arnold Classic, and I look at him, I go, holy fucking shit. I go,
Hmm.
I don't know how you could be 1% better,
Hmm.
which is scary, because if you're a week out, And you looks like visually, in my opinion, he couldn't get any better. I'm like, if you cut water or diuretic, I think you might get flat, you know?
And
And
did he?
that was the year he got third. And I
Oh,
think he was a little, I could be wrong. I think he may have been a little flat at prejudging, and then he came back in the night show fuller and and everything. But like, man, when he's like fully hydrated and
mm,
round full, it looks gnarly, you
yeah.
know?
Was that the same year he had just won the show at the Flex Pro in Santa Monica?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
those are good looks for him. Those two shows.
Oh, crazy good. Crazy
Because
good. Yeah.
I don't know if you use directs at other shows. Because I used to go down to your guy's gym to shoot videos with him, and I'd see him a week or two out, and I'm like, wow. And then I'd get to the show, I'm like, oh no, Evan, what did you do? Still
Yeah.
impressive, but not what I. If he had looked the way he had looked in New Haven, Connecticut, a week or two before, it would have been a different story. A few,
I always think sometimes in the aspects like that, it's like, yeah, you might lose a little bit of water to gain 5% dryness, but you just lost 18% fullness. And then it hurt the overall look, you know?
terrible trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised to read I've been stalking your Instagram prior to this interview, that you've had ulcerative colitis for a few years. I think you told me going back to 2013. So what is that exactly, and how does it impact, your personal nutrition, the way you have to eat?
All right. So I'm going to try to say this in as least words as possible so everybody can kind of understand this in all educational levels. Ulcerative colitis is one of the irritable bowel diseases, not to be confused with IBS. It's an inflammatory disease. It's generally in Jewish ancestry. It's generally with people who are extremely stressed. That's kind of like the correlation, or stressful events in their life. I have zero family history of it, Ron. I
Oh,
brought it on totally myself through competing, pushing your body. And people go, well, how can that happen? Because as you know, there's a lot of people with digestive issues now.
yeah.
So like when you're over consuming food and typical stupid bodybuilding diet of just rice, chicken, beef, chicken, sloppy Joe mix, and drinking all these amino acid drinks, and everybody's not doing fruits and vegetables, and nobody's cycling their food or getting a variety of food. And then they're slamming pre-workouts and training balls to the wall. You're basically doing is you're creating a vast inflammatory environment. One, you're overstimulating your sympathetic nervous system, and overstimulated sympathetic nervous system directly affects digestion. It's
Hmm.
kind of like, do you digest food really well when you're in full sprint? No, not just because of the fact of blood's moving to the muscles away from the stomach, but also the fact that your sympathetic nervous system is elevated. So it's like, if you're in a flight fight, a lot of the times animals or humans might throw up because the body rejects digestion in order to be in that flight fight zone. So chronically being in that sympathetic nervous system, overdoing it, eventually wreaked havoc my intestinal tract. Inflammation went up, and I was legitimately shitting blood and mucus anywhere
Oh,
from 10 to 17 times a day.
wow.
Dude, it came to the point one time. My dad's a physician, and like I noticed it was progressive. I started to get insanely bloated every time I trained. If
Hmm.
I trained legs the next day, I was like messed up because obviously pushing yourself to the max.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, then I started to see urgency without stool. Then I started to see blood, and I'm like, what the hell? So then I
Mm.
Google it. I'm like, it could be hemorrhoids because it's light colored blood. And then it was like more and more and more. And then I'm like, oh crap.
Mm.
Like, what is this? I don't know how cancer or not. Usually cancer is like black stools.
Mm.
So, I talked to my dad about it, and he's like, well, it looks like you might have some sort of IBD. Long story short, I get a colonoscopy, and the guy goes, your intestines are so inflamed. He goes, your biopsy came back positive for characteristics of Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. He goes, however, all your signs and symptoms more fit the lines of ulcerative colitis.
Hmm.
And they wanted to start me on all these meds and shit. And at the time, it was like $1,200 a month in meds, and my insurance wasn't covering it. So, and he gave me a trial for 30 days, and it didn't really work.
Hmm.
And a lot of the doctors, doctors don't know any better in the sense that they're just teaching what they've learned. And he
Yeah.
basically told me, he goes, it's not diet related. It is correlated with being stressed and having anxiety, because they always say IBD and IBS are basically nervous person's disease.
Right.
People who are very anxious and nervous usually have digestive issues because of that overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. And meds didn't work. So I said, screw this guy. I'm not going to be taking these meds or victim to these meds. I got to change my lifestyle. I got to learn to slow my mind down. I have to learn to stay away from stimulants. I have to learn how to manage my life a little better and handle stress better. Long story short, over a 2-year period of time, eventually I was able to stop the meds. Eventually became symptom free, and
Wow.
I haven't had a real bad episode, knock on wood, in a very long time. I
Hmm.
do get warning signs, like if I go to travel, say Lex and I are traveling to Greece and we're anxious and we're hurried, we're getting up early and I'm running around, I'll get warning signs that my stomach's starting to kind of get a little distended, a little gassy. And there's
Yeah.
still a lot of foods that I can't tolerate or eat. Like I can't eat oatmeal. I can't eat potatoes more than once a day. There's a lot of vegetables I can't eat. So my diet's pretty stringent, but long story short, I've learned to control it with nutrition. And the biggest aspect is managing stress, staying away from stimulants, and believe it or not, staying away from exercises that overstimulate your central nervous system. Like if I was squatting and deadlifting in the same week or heavy barbell rows, I would instantaneously start to get warning signs right away.
Wow.
So like if I do T-bar, chest supported row, and I do hack squat, it's less kind of taxing on the CNS, and I don't really have as much issues.
I mean, that's scary because you just named like all the exercises that, especially in the foundational years, we have guys doing. But maybe this is something that would take years to reach a condition like that. I would hope. Otherwise, we'd have an epidemic of ulcerative colitis in the bodybuilding world.
Well, exercises itself don't cause it. You obviously have a genetic factor, but
Right.
it's in lines with everything. It's a combination of everything. It's not one thing.
Yeah.
People tend to attach to a black and white answer where like this food's causing me IBS, IBD. Food doesn't cause IBS or IBD. It makes the symptoms and signs worse
Okay.
when you have a flare up. When you're constantly stressed or going through a stressful event and you're overtaxing your CNS and you're overdoing stimulants because you're tired and your diet shit, you're creating an
Yeah, froze up.
environment, and then somebody could smoke a little bit and get cancer.
Wow. Uh, you froze up on my screen. There you are. You're back. We're back. Thank God. Okay.
Well, what's the
Uh,
last thing I said?
Not really sure, but we only lost a few seconds there. I think we'll be okay. Because
Okay.
how did you? I'm just curious. How did you figure out which foods that you need to stay away from? Was it like you take one out of your diet at a time, or how'd you do it?
Well, generally the treatment for IBS and IBD, especially during a flare up, is following a diet that's low residue, which is basically no dairy, um, softer foods, low fiber foods. So like it would be like canned fruits, overcooked vegetables, no raw vegetables, easier to digest foods, obviously. So you're easing the burden on intestinal tract so it can heal. And
Okay.
then once it heals, then you can slowly introduce foods back again. But I could never get to that point. I can't eat oatmeal. I can't eat potatoes. I can't eat broccoli. I can't go out tonight and eat a calzone and drink a liter of beer and then have ice cream after. The
Wow.
next day, it would be starting of a disaster.
Wow. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of related, but on your Instagram today, you made a post that was really enlightening to me because bro science says when you're dieting and you're hungry, you can eat as much foods like say lettuce, or we go crazy on vegetables because there's almost no calories in them. It's roughage, and we assume we're doing ourselves a service too because that's going to help our digestion. We think it's going to help bowel movements. But you actually referenced that in a lot of cases it's a terrible thing for people to do, and they're constipating themselves. How can you be constipated when you're slamming down pounds of vegetables a day on your prep?
Because it's not the same type of fiber you're going to find in oat bran beans and oatmeal. It's not the same. It's not the same at all.
Hmm.
And what people don't realize is anything in excess is not a good thing. All right. And one, people who are in prep and they're hungry, you're just gonna have to freaking deal with it. It's just hungry. It's normal. You're gonna live. It's gonna be 3 months. You're gonna be hungry, and then you're good to eat again. Um, but remember, the vegetables have harder to digest, and some of them are indigestible fibers, hemicellulose in the skin, that can be hard to break down. Now, when the diet is absent of fats, because fats sometimes make things slippery in the intestinal tract, right?
Yeah.
You're lower in fats, you're low in calories. So overall, the amount of bulk in your stool is less. All right.
Okay.
Carbohydrates like oats, breads, rice will carry water into the intestinal tract and kind of help your stool move. Vegetables and hard to break down fibers when you're eating mass quantities of them, it's kind of like shoving a bunch of hair in a pipe. Some hair can go down fine, but you keep shoving it in there and it's going to get stuck. It's going to get hard to digest and break down. Not to mention when you're in prep, a lot of the times what contributes to constipation is, again, overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. You're exercising twice a day, you're tired, so now you're taking stimulants, you're taking Clen, you're drinking extra coffee. And coffee, in theory, caffeine stimulates the intestinal tract to contract, but if you're also overstimulated, it goes the other way. So like there is a difference between overdoing and not to mention vegetable choice. So obviously cooked vegetables, the fibers break down to make it a little easier to digest. And, people sitting there eating ginormous bowls of salad, some might not have problems, but like some are going to have problems. So it's definitely not something that like it's a universal black and white thing that's going to apply to everybody. Like they just can't do that. I would say 80% of my clients will end up having constipation issues one way or another in prep. And then when you look at it and I ask about the vegetable intake, it's usually out of control. And then when we cut the vegetable intake back, we change the vegetable choices and or cook them, it relieves itself. It's like I said, again, it's a multifaceted issue, but you can't over consume vegetables. Fruits will help you poop, the sorbitol in apples, warm apples can help you go. Overripe bananas can help you go. There's certain things like that, but too many blueberries can make you constipated. So like you got to know your body. You got to know the balance, the threshold. But like, I had a guy the other day and, I told him what he was doing was too many vegetables, or he was picking like squashes and butternut squash. I'm like, you can't have that much. It's 3 grams of carbs per ounce and you're having like 10 ounces per meal. You're still having too much. So use these vegetables instead. And they post a video and it's like a pound of vegetables per meal. I'm like, you can't do that, man. You just got to deal with being hungry. Like distract yourself, be busy, do other things around the house, occupy yourself in your time. Don't obsess about what you feel all the time. You're just going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, I mean, hunger is probably the toughest part of prep. That most people, they're always looking for a way out. Like, what can I eat? Come on, tell me I'm hungry. What can I eat? They do not want to be hungry ever.
Those are the people who are they pay attention too close to how they feel. Like it just, dude, learn to ignore feelings and emotion. Like learn to go through prep and, it's so funny. It's like, I always make fun of people. Like everybody's about beast mode in the gym.
Yes.
And then, but until they get to the refrigerator and then they just collapse like a little weakling. It's like, oh dude, I cracked. And the next day it's like beast mode doing squats. I'm like,
yeah. Well, I think a lot of people also talk themselves into
freaking lamb the rest of the 23 hours.
But we have this whole mentality now where people say, well, this will be my cheat meal because tomorrow I do legs or tomorrow I do back. So they can always sort of justify it. Maybe their coach wouldn't approve of it, but a lot of people, like, they justify their binges that way.
Ron, think about this. Dude, back in the day, I know, especially you, back in the day, there was no cheat meals.
The term did not exist.
We didn't even do refeeds. I didn't do refeeds or cheat meals.
Yeah, that term didn't exist either. You were dieting. Yeah. You're supposed to be hungry. It was supposed to suck. My first diet way back in the day was tuna. I think tuna and carrots or something stupid. That was my diet. I ate that like 6 times a day because I didn't know. We didn't have internet. It was caveman days. But people got lean back then. They got in shape. And we didn't have DNP back then. Clen was not that popular back in the old days. Enough about all these other people. Let's talk about Chris Tuttle. So we have not seen you on stage in 4 years now.
Yeah.
Your leg training was hampered, but your upper body, clearly you were able to train fine. So what improvements do you feel you've made in these past 4 years that we're going to see on stage in Long Beach?
Yeah. I still feel that my leg mass is really not up to par for what it's been at its best, but it's still sufficient enough. I feel my glutes and my hamstrings obviously are probably the best they've been in consideration of I've been able to focus on them more without too much limitations of injury. I feel that my back has come up and probably just a little bit bigger everywhere. but not substantially. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, I'm gonna come and crush it. I'm gonna be totally different. I definitely made improvements. I think my condition's pretty good at this point. I'm happy with the look and condition, no doubt. You know.
Yeah. You're a guy that you don't look enormous in clothes, but when you see you on stage, and unfortunately, I haven't seen you on stage in a long time now, but you're one of those Clark Kents where you totally transform. Does it ever bother you? Because I know there's been times when I think there have been posts where people were saying, "Oh, Tuttle looks like he weighs about 210 or something," and someone would say, I think like either Jose or Evan would say, Tuttle's 245 or 250 right now, so shut the fuck up. Do you like the fact that you're sort of create an illusion where you get on stage, you are a lot bigger than people might think you are?
I do actually. It's funny. I had an animal video the other day, and I had a photo shoot that day, and I weighed in at 218 that day, and my glutes were completely striated, and all the comments and the thing were like, "This dude's wicked small." I'm like, "Two 218 pounds with striated glutes is not small."
No.
Um, but I really don't care, and I actually like it because generally in public, I don't like people looking at me, you
Mm.
know, and like or having to come up to me and be like, "Hey, what do you bench?" Like, "Oh, can you build me a program?" Like, I just like to sometimes when I'm like, in my daily life just to be normal. So like being able to kind of be a little more incognito is definitely something I like. I don't like to be that guy in the room where everybody's like, "Oh, look at this guy," you know.
Well,
I
I've never been that big, but I've been in the company of many very large people over the years, and there's two types of attention they get. People look at them with disdain, like, "Ugh, juice head, freaking,"
yeah.
with contempt, or it'll be some young fanboy wannabe comes up, "Yo, bro, how much trend should I run?" It's never anything it's never the type of attention. Very rarely someone will say, "Wow, you look great," but it's more often it's negative. It's not great. So
Yeah,
yeah, you're better
100%.
off.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um, I'm just throwing this in there because I saw your wife post this morning about your dog. How old is, because your dog, she's wondering, this is a question a lot of us. I'm a dog owner and I'm gonna have to deal with this. My dog just turned 17 last week.
Wow.
My older dog, the Shih Tzu. That's pretty old. So your dog is almost 16 now?
He's about to be 16 in May, but he's a black lab. He's a big
Oh,
dog.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That is very old for a dog that size.
I'm looking at him right now. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Wow. I'm just curious. How is he? Is he like health wise? How is he?
Declining rapidly.
Mm. Does
I
he
mean,
move around and eat and everything? Or
oh, he definitely still eats, but we need to help him half the time get off the floor. But he's having a lot of events lately where he collapses and he'll piss and shit himself,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
he like panics and he starts yelping. And then he went through like a 40-hour episode where he kept being dizzy and then just passing out and hitting his head on the floor.
Oh man.
But really, what's kind of made our decision, we're actually going to put him down Wednesday,
Yeah.
is
Sorry.
he's not following us around anymore and he looks very uncomfortable. Like right now, I'm watching him and he's just standing there breathing heavy, pacing back and forth. Like, I don't want him to like sit there and suffer for my own enjoyment to keep him alive as much longer as I can, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we got the whole gamut of like CBD meds and all this other stuff that's
Yeah.
helped
Yeah.
a lot, and MCT oil and stuff. But I mean, lately he doesn't wag his tail, and he's just looks so uncomfortable. You know?
Yeah. A lot of those symptoms you described. My dog's got some of those. It's canine dementia, which they can. I didn't even know that they could have dementia like human beings, but man, it's disturbing. Like these barking episodes where there's nothing to be barking about, but they will not stop barking. That there's something bothering them, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's scary.
He went through that last year. It looked like he was hallucinating. He was like walking around the house, like
Yeah.
staring the other room. I'm like, what are you looking at? Because he already can't hear. So I'm like
Yeah.
looking around, and he's like,
Yeah. I know we're going off on tangents, but I'm sure a lot of the people watching this, they have dogs or they've had dogs, so this is relevant somehow, some
yeah,
way.
sure.
Man, we've gotten. I think we've got through everything. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you up there again. I honestly thought you were so busy, so successful doing what you do, because you're so good at it that I was never going to see you on stage again. Which as long as you were cool with it, I wouldn't cry about it. But I'm glad that you're getting up there again. It's I always thought you had a hell of a physique. Structure, shape. I like the mass monsters, but I also appreciate the guys with the really, really pretty shape and symmetry, and that's Chris Tuttle for sure. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Ron. You know, I mean, the way I looked at it too, I said to myself, I said to my wife, I'm like, you know, like obviously, you know, nothing's forever, and I don't want to totally blow off my 30s and not compete, and then look back and regret maybe I should have done it. Am I going into this show 100% healthy with my body? No, but it's good enough, and I'm going to give it, and I might even compete a few more times next year as well, and just do what I can, why I can. So I'm not going to look back and have any stupid regrets, you know, because too much time has been wasted. As we all know, looking back at our younger years, there's years we just wasted doing absolutely nothing. And 5 years from now, I don't want to look back and be like, dude, all I did was work all the time and I didn't have any enjoyment, and I should have done it when my body was more intact. So, you know.
No, luckily you came to this realization now, not when you're 50. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
cool.
I don't,
Okay.
no, thank
So
you.
let's tell people where to find you on Instagram. You are IFBB Chris Tuttle.
Yeah,
You can your company with you and your wife, that is Tuttle Nutrition, and you have TuttleNutrition.com. There's
correct,
also a Tuttle Nutrition Instagram, which I believe it's Tuttle, just Tuttle Nutrition, right?
correct. Yeah,
No other Tuttle got that before you, thank goodness.
yeah.
You're also an Animal Pack athlete. Where can people find all these videos that we've been talking about?
You can find it on Animal Pack on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe. Some videos are on there. You know, I was a universal athlete for years, and they transferred over to the animal side. So there's not too many current videos. I think there's 3 up now since I'm a new athlete since August. But there'll be more to come, and there's a lot more plans coming up soon for travel and things like that. But very, very lucky to be with the animal. Love them. I love the fact that I'm with Jewett and and Evan and everybody, the whole crew. It's been awesome for sure.
Yeah, always seems that they've always picked, the kind of guys that we see in the ads or at these things, that they always seem like the kind of guys you'd want to hang out with and train with at the gym. Just like cool guys. So,
Yeah, dude, it's a real company. It's like the company is not like this corporate company that takes people, picks them up, chews them out, and spits them out to the next guy. Like they're legitimate company, man. Like they have integrity, and people don't have that much today in the supplement industry. But that's one company that really stands, I think, in my opinion, above the rest. I've seen their whole operation. I've done everything, been there for years. Of course, Evan's been there for years. I'm just very grateful for the opportunity, and that I took it, and here we are.
yeah, well, they chose good. They chose well with you as well. So, all right, that is it. I'm looking forward to seeing you November 11th, Long Beach, California, Legion Sports Fest. That's the next time you guys can see. MD is covering the event, everybody. So you'll be able to see full coverage of the event on the website, musculardevelopment.com. Chris, thank you so much. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
thank
taking
you,
the
Ron.
time,
Appreciate it.
and very excited to see you coming back. All
Awesome,
right.
man.
And
Thank
for
you.
Ronline Report, it's been Ron Harris with Chris Tuttle. Thanks for watching.